John Miller sat in the quiet room beneath the glass dome. He watched his screen glow with strange symbols and words. Across the table, representatives from each continent waited. They all knew why they were here. The message was clear. The Zorthar. Dominion demanded surrender of Earth's technology. Failure to comply would bring destruction. John's heart beat fast, but he kept his face calm. He pressed a button and the words repeated. A hush fell over the room. A sharp knock sounded at the door. Ava Davis stepped in and closed it behind her. She wore a gray uniform with silver stripes on the shoulders. As the lead military strategist, she studied the message with cool eyes. She read the lines about quantum drives, satellite arrays, and streetcars alike. Nothing escaped her notice. When she looked up, she met John's gaze. She gave a small nod. We have to move quickly, she said. Far above, the Zorthar Armada drifted in Earth's orbit. Giant ships cast long shadows over the blue planet. On the largest bridge, Commander Uthar watched the view. His pale face showed no fear. He would crush any resistance. His captain stood behind him, ready. A deep hum filled the bridge as the ships powered their weapons. Uthar felt the Dominion's pride. No world had dared defy them. Earth would fall in hours. Back on Earth, world leaders gathered in a digital summit. They spoke through holograms in a circle of light. President Garcia of the Americas, Chancellor Weber of Europe, and Premier Lin of Asia joined John and Ava. Each voiced worry and doubt. Some urged surrender. Others called for war. John listened to each voice. He thought of his family and friends. He thought of the children playing in parks. He thought of simple joy. That was worth fighting for. Ava spoke last. She laid out a bold plan. She would use secret satellites that no one outside the program knew. These satellites could fire beams to disrupt alien shields. Then drones could slip through the gaps. The drones would carry special MP charges. With those, they could knock out the enemy's control systems. It is risky, Ava admitted, but it is our only chance. She paused. If we do nothing, we lose everything. Silence followed. The room seemed to grow cold. President Garcia leaned forward. You would risk the lives of our pilots and our people on the ground? He asked. Ava met his eyes. We will keep civilians away from targets. We will use automated craft first. She pointed at a map of the night sky. We choose small gains. We strike fast. We protect the cities. Premier Lin folded her hands on the table. This is a matter of pride, she said. We have shown we can stand by our word. We cannot bow to fear, people around the circle murmured. Some heads nodded, some frowned. John raised his hand. We should also send a message, he said. A public display. Let the world see we will not kneel. It will show the Dominion they face a united front. Outside, crowds gathered in major squares. They held candles and signs saying, Earth stands tall. Reports streamed from every city on every continent. From Tokyo to Rio, from Nairobi to Berlin, people stood together. They did not speak of war. They spoke of hope. They sang old songs. They held hands and watched the stars in silence. A shared strength grew among them. At midnight, Ava's team prepared the first launch. She stood in a hangar under bright lights. Ethan Cole joined her. He was the lead engineer who designed the secret satellites. His hands shook slightly as he checked a control panel. He had worked on this project in secret for years. Now the moment had come, he whispered. May this work. Ava placed a hand on his shoulder. It will, she said softly. The launch code was typed. A low rumble shook the hangar. A missile shot toward orbit. Monitors tracked its path. It slipped past an alien scout ship. The world watched in silent awe. Then the screen flickered. The beam hit the target. A pulse of light split the darkness. Then silence. The shield around. The enemy ship glowed red and died. The craft drifted, powerless. A cheer rose in the control room. Ava closed her eyes and whispered thanks. John watched the live feed on his tablet. He felt hope for the first time in hours. Yet he knew this was only the start. They had shown strength, but the Dominion still had many ships. The struggle would not end quickly. Commander Arthur's voice came over the bridge speakers. He stared at the flickering image of his ship. "The humans dare to fight," he growled. He ordered his captains to prepare for retaliation. Drills sounded in his ears. The crew braced themselves. Arthur clenched his fist. They would show these primitives the price of defiance. Back on Earth, John called out to the summit. "We must prepare for the next move," he said. "We need to strengthen our defenses and train more pilots." He looked at Ava. "Can we scale this plan?" She nodded. "We will build more drones and use more satellites. We can protect cities and strike back quickly." A young reporter, Mia Brooks, logged on to the summit. She had been granted special access. She spoke with calm energy. "Today, the world saw hope," she said. "Millions watched as Earth fired the first blow. No one thought we would do it, but we did. We showed that fear will not bind us. We laughed at the threat." Her words spread across every channel and feed. As dawn broke over the Pacific, people woke to news of the strike. They saw videos of the beam in space, the flicker of light across the dark shield. They saw crowds cheering in squares. A wave of relief passed through homes and offices. Children asked their parents if the danger was gone. Parents answered, "We will be safe, for now we stand together." John walked outside the dome at sunrise. He breathed in the cool air. He felt the warmth of the rising sun. He thought of Ava's plan, of Ethan's beam, of the crowds in the night. He stood tall. In his mind he whispered, "We laugh at threats." He turned toward the horizon. The next battle awaited, but today humanity had shown its heart. Ava Davis paced the command room at the military base. Screens lit up the walls showing streams of data. She held a tablet in her hand that listed every active satellite. Below, Ethan Cole worked on his console, adjusting flight paths. Outside, the windows, the hangar doors stood open. Drone ships lined up like silent soldiers waiting for orders. Ava stopped and looked at the screens. She saw markers where the next shots would land. She tapped one marker and zoomed in. She saw the alien cruiser drifting in the dark. It was ready for their next move. John Miller stood beside her, calm but tense. He watched as advisors argued in small groups. Each spoke in quiet voices about risk and reward. John thought of the messages from families all over the world. They sent photos of children holding drawings of spaceships. They sent letters begging for peace. He felt their hopes. He felt the weight of every life. He turned to Ava. "They will strike back," he said. Ava nodded. "They will, but we have to be faster. We have to keep them off balance." She tapped the tablet and a new map appeared. It showed small red dots scattered around Earth orbit. "Those are their fighters," she said. "They will try to stop our drones," John sighed. "Can our drones avoid those?" Ethan looked up from his console. "We reprogrammed the flight software. The drones will use irregular patterns. They will dodge many of their fighters, but not all." Ava took a deep breath. "We send in the first wave at sunrise tomorrow. We target their communication array. If we cut their link, they will lose control of their ships." John nodded. "And then?" "We move to the next target power generators," Ava said. "We cripple them little by little. They cannot rebuild fast enough." John closed his eyes. "All right." The next morning came quickly. The sky was pale pink at dawn. In the hangar, pilots strapped into their seats. Zoe Mitchell checked her gear. She felt the hum of engines under her. She could hear her own heartbeat loud in her ears. Her co-pilot sat in the cockpit beside her. They shared a nod before sealing the hatch. Ava sat in the control chair. She spoke clearly. "Initiate launch." Out the open doors, the drones rose. Like a flock of metal birds, they climbed toward the sky. Down below, cameras followed each flight path. In space, satellites locked onto the drones and guided them toward the cruisers. On the alien bridge, Commander Ithar saw the movement on his screens. "They send more," he said. He ordered fighters to intercept. Fighters flew from the cruisers like angry hornets. They darted toward the drones, weapons ready. In the command room, Ethan watched the screens. "They are too slow," he said. Our drones are moving too fast. Ava watched the map. Red icons blinked but then vanished. One by one, the drones slipped past. She felt a surge of relief but held it in. Zoe's drone neared the target. The command array floated like a cluster of rods and plates. She maneuvered the drone under it and fired the EMP. A pulse of blue light flashed. The array went dark. The map blinked red and then green. One target down. Behind Zoe, other drones hit their marks. Communication began to break across the alien ships, officers shouted in their strange language. Controls blinked off and on. They struggled to hold formation. The fleet wobbled. Back on Earth, Ava rose from her chair. She pressed a button and the command room lights brightened. She looked at John. They lost link, she said. We did it. John smiled, but he felt tired. He rubbed his temples. Do we pause? He asked. Ava shook her head. No, we keep pressing. We strike at their power next? John agreed. He tapped the tablet and new targets appeared. On the alien flagship, Commander Othar stomped down a corridor. His officers bowed, but fear showed in their eyes. He reached the main reactor chamber. Panels sparked and flickered. He banged his fist against a console. Bring me the humans' leaders, he roared into a communicator. I will show them the cost of defiance. Among the fleet, ships drifted without clear orders. Some fired at empty space, others collided. The Dominion's pride turned to panic. Ava single quotes as plan moved on. Drones sped toward the power generators. The same crew who fired at dawn now launched again. They moved in groups, avoiding fighters and hitting solar collectors. Each strike sent a pulse of light across the sky. Earth watched. Children and elders stood at windows, watching the streaks in space. No one cheered now. They held their breath. They feared what came next on the bridge. Of the flagship, Othar watched the lights flicker. They will not stop, he said. He ordered the cruisers to retreat. They fell back from Earth orbit. But in their haste, they left behind half their ships. Those drifted aimlessly. On Earth, alarms rang in the command room. Ava looked at her. Screen. They retreat, she said. People in the room sank into chairs. They gasped for breath. They stared at the map showing the alien ships pulling away. John stood and faced everyone. He raised a hand. This is not over, he said. But today we showed our strength. We stood as one. We laughed at their threat, and they left. He paused. Tomorrow we will meet them in the stars. Outside, the sun rose higher. Light touched the curved roof of the base. Soldiers and scientists alike emerged in small groups. They shared smiles and tears. They had done the impossible, and they would do more. Zoe landed her drone carrier and stepped out. She saw Ava waiting. They hugged lightly. Zoe said, We did it. Ava squeezed her. We laughed back. John walked in and joined them. He looked at the sky. The alien ships grew smaller as they fled. He said softly, They will remember the day Earth laughed. Mia Brooks reported live. Her voice was steady. Earth has driven back the invaders. Today, humanity showed courage. It showed unity. It showed laughter in the face of fear, and the universe will take notice. In every time zone, people heard the words. They spread across feeds. They passed from mouth to mouth. Tomorrow would bring new battles, but tonight the world slept with hope, and that hope burned like a star in the dark. In the days after the strike, Earth's leaders met again. They gathered in a round table under the glass dome. John Miller joined Ava Davis, Ethan Cole, Zoe Mitchell, and Mia Brooks. New faces stood behind them. Liam Carter, the linguist, leaned over to check his notes. They spoke quietly about the next steps. Some warned that the Zorther Dominion would return in force. Others hoped the retreat signaled weakness. John cleared his throat. We cannot wait, he said. We must take the fight to them. He looked at Ava. She met his gaze and nodded. Ava rose and capped a map of space above the table. Dots showed the positions of alien ships. A red arc marked the edge of Earth's reach. Ava pointed at a cluster beyond that line. Here lies their forward base, she said. It controls the patrol routes. If we disable it, their fleet will lose its muscle. She paused. But to reach it, we need a new ship. Earth's builders had worked night and day. They had retrofitted the carrier that launched the drones. Now it needed engines. Ethan Cole stepped forward. He unrolled a schematic. We adapted alien drive cores from disabled ships, he said. He traced the design with his finger. With these, we can push the carrier farther and faster. Ava studied the plan. Can it reach the base and return? She asked. Ethan nodded. With extra fuel and careful navigation. Zoe Mitchell and her pilots were ready. They trained in simulation chambers that felt like weightless tunnels. Zoe led 20 volunteers. They practiced dogfighting and evasive maneuvers. Each pilot learned to rely on instincts. Their uniform jackets bore a silver Earth emblem. They spoke little, focused on the controls. When the alarm sounded, they leapt into their cockpits. They felt the shuttle drop and the engines roar. Then they praised each other when they hit their marks in training. Ava watched from the control room, satisfied. Mia Brooks traveled among the crowds. She reported on the builders in coastal cities and the farmers who shared crops with military bases. She told stories of unity. A blacksmith in Ohio forged new armor plates. A teacher in India led a class to send letters of hope to the pilots. Elderly veterans in Russia offered advice on tactics. Mia recorded each voice. She wove them into a tapestry of Earth's will. Her words reached screens everywhere. They reminded people of why they fought. To protect home and family. Liam Carter studied captured Zortho logs. He worked with a small team of scholars in a library below the dome. They decoded messages about patrol schedules and defense protocols. Liam's fingers moved quickly across the keys. He muttered translations under his breath. Finally, he found a pattern. They rotate ships every 12 hours, he said. They use the base we target as a hub. If we strike at dawn, they will be at their weakest. John smiled. Then dawn it is. They plotted the course on board the carrier. Zoe and her pilots checked their gear. The ship's hull glowed under the hangar lights. It bore the name Unity. John stepped inside and felt the hum of the engines. He walked down the corridor with Ava at his side. He touched the metal wall and thought of every person who built this ship. He felt gratitude and pride. May it carry? U.S. FAR, he whispered. At sunrise, Unity slipped into space. It left a bright trail across the sky. From Earth, people watched its ascent. Children waved from balconies. Women and men stood silent. They prayed or sent thoughts of protection. The carrier climbed beyond the drone reach. Ethan watched telemetry. In the command room, he cheered when they reached the first waypoint. He spoke into a mic, sending encouragement to the crew. They pinged back with confidence. Inside Unity, the crew prepared for the jump. The drive cores glowed with blue light. Engineers in white coats monitored pressure gauges. Zoe strapped in beside her co-pilots. She felt her heart race. She recalled the morning when she fired the first MP. She remembered the crowd's roar. Now she faced real combat. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply. Then she flipped a switch. The ship shivered. The stars stretched. When the jump ended, they arrived near the Zorther base. It hung like a spider in the void. Miles of cables and panels formed a web. Zoe looked through the viewports. She saw fighters on patrol. They glowed red under alien suns. John spoke over the intercom. All teams ready? Each pilot answered. Ava waited in the command pod, calm and watchful. Ethan monitored shields. The base's defenses glowed, but they would not hold long. Zoe's squadron launched from Unity. They flew in V formation. Each pilot held a pulse cannon. They dodged fighter patrols and slipped behind a moon fragment. Their wings folded. They cut power and drifted into the dark. Then they fired. Bright bolts sliced the cables. Sparks rained into space. An alarm blared across the base. Lights spun red. But the pilots had moved. They circled and fired again. They hit power conduits and reactor junctions. The base shuddered. Inside the base, alien technicians scrambled. They tried to reroute power, but the damage spread. Panels melted, circuits burned. Commander Othar roared into his cum. Deploy the defense drones. Waves of small ships swarmed toward the intruders. The pilots banked and dodged. Zoe fired at the drones. Each shot sent metal debris spinning. Her squadron weaved among the wreckage. They pressed on. One pilot, Maya Summers, targeted the reactor core. Her drone dove through fire. She armed a torpedo. Then she pulled upward. The torpedo sped into the core. A pulse of green light filled the view. The base trembled. Alarms faded. The core shut down. Lights died. The base fell silent. On Unity, John saw the readings. "They are blind," he said. "Fire the drones." He pressed a button. A hatch opened. Drones drifted out. They powered up and flew toward the dark base. They carried charges. Their lights blinked blue. Back inside the base, alien forces gathered near the command center. Commander Ithar glared at the viewport. He saw the drones. He cursed. There was no time to evacuate civilians or to restore power. He banged his fist. "Retreat!" he yelled. The pilots and drones moved in unison. They struck the final blow. Communication. Towers and shielding generators. The base went dead. It hung lifeless in space. Zoe and her squadron regrouped. They flew back to Unity. They felt the rush of victory but also the weight of loss. 3 pilots did not return. They had fallen in the assault. Zoe closed her eyes for each of them. She bowed her head. John met the returning squadron at the airlock. He helped them out of their suits. He spoke each name with respect: Maya, Eric, Naomi, Lais, and others. He pressed each shoulder. "You brought their fortress to its knees," he said. Ava entered behind him. She held a datapad. "Analysis shows the base controlled all nearby patrols," she said. "The fleet will be in chaos. We can press our advantage." John nodded. "We go on offense," he said. Mia Brooks joined them. Her recorder blinked. She smiled warmly. "Today, Earth showed no fear," she said. "They struck at the heart of the enemy. They laughed at their threat and they broke their might. The universe will remember this day. On Earth, people cheered. They rang bells in towns and lit beacons on mountains. They danced in streets. They wept in joy. A new anthem rose, simple words and a strong beat. It told of courage and unity. It spoke of laughter. It spoke of Earth's will. John walked the dome halls that night. He saw faces light by the glow of screens. He saw children asleep with toy ships clutched in their hands. He felt their trust. He knelt and touched the floor. He whispered a promise. Earth would stand tall. Earth would laugh again. And Earth would never bow above. In the silent void, unity glowed. It carried the hope of billions. It pointed toward the stars. Zoe Mitchell sat in the small cockpit of her ship. Her eyes traced the stars outside the window. The dust of battle still clung to her craft. She felt tired but proud. Below her, the damaged alien vessels drifted like silent ghosts. She thought of Earth and the faces waiting for news. She tightened her grip on the control stick and looked at her squad. Each pilot gave her a nod. They saw the determination in their leader's eyes. Ava Davis stood on the bridge of the transport ship. The room hummed with lights and screens. She watched the live feed from Zoe's cockpit. Data scrolled across her screen: shields, hull integrity, power levels. She tapped a button and sent new coordinates. "Zoe, move to Sector 4, she said. Her voice was calm but firm. Across the room, John Miller discussed strategy with Liam Carter, the alien linguist. Liam studied messages taken from the Dominion fleet. He looked up at John. "They are talking among themselves," he said. "They wonder if they can save face." John leaned back in his chair. He rubbed his chin. He thought of his first meeting with the Zorther. They had demanded Earth's surrender without mercy. Now their pride was battered. John saw a chance to end the conflict with words, not more metal and fire. He turned to Ava. "Can we open a channel?" he asked. Ava nodded and typed commands. A soft beep sounded. "Channel open," she reported. On the main screen, a symbol flickered, showing the alien insignia. Commander Arthur's face appeared in a hologram. His pale skin looked sharper in the flicker of the projector. He held himself erect, arms folded. He spoke in a voice as cold As space, the words came through in English, thanks to Liam's translation program. Humans, he said, you have shown cunning, yet you lack the strength to end this. I offer you terms, we withdraw half our fleet. You promise no further attacks. In return, you agree to discuss technology sharing. John felt the weight of the moment. He met Ava's eyes. She nodded slightly. He cleared his throat. Commander, we respect your offer, but Earth does not bow. You attacked first. Our people suffered fear. We stood together in defiance. We will not accept half-steps. However, we can agree to a ceasefire. We will hold our fire. You will hold yours. In that time, we can discuss terms as equals. Arthur's eyes narrowed. He looked at his officers off-screen. They whispered to each other. Finally, he spoke. We accept your ceasefire. But know this, we will be watching. One false move and we return. The hologram faded. Ava closed the channel. Liam tapped his console. They will honor it. They fear loss of face. More than loss of ships. John nodded. Then we have a chance. He turned to the bridge crew. Prepare for negotiations and prepare for defense. We do not trust them. We only trust ourselves. Zoe landed her ship on the transport deck. She climbed down and joined Ava and John in the conference room. Soldiers and scientists filled the seats. Mia Brooks stood by the door with her recorder. She had a clear view of the leaders. Zoe looked at her friends. She felt hope and fear mixed together. John stood and spoke. Today we rest, tomorrow we will talk. We will show them the value of Earth's people, our ideas, our hearts. We will stand as equals, but our defenses will remain strong. Our satellites will watch, our drones will patrol, and our people will remain free. He paused. We laughed at the threat. Now we will stand with respect. Respect for ourselves and respect from the stars. Outside the windows, the broken ships of the Zorther drifted away. Stars shone bright beyond them. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then a small cheer rose from the scientists. They clapped and hugged. Ava smiled. John looked at Zoe. She raised her hand in a small wave. Mia stepped forward. How does it feel to laugh and survive? She asked. Zoe paused. She looked at the fleet and back to Earth's ships. She answered, It feels like standing tall after a long fall. Days passed as Earth and the Dominion held their ceasefire. Negotiations took place in neutral orbit. Liam Carter led the talks for humanity. He spoke calmly with clear words. He explained Earth's values, freedom, creativity, the right to shape one's destiny. The aliens listened and responded, sometimes with harsh words, sometimes with curiosity. John watched each session. He felt the slow change in the room. Walls began to break. Ideas crossed across translators. Shared laughter replaced threats. Back on Earth, the people worked to rebuild trust in themselves. They celebrated the pilots, the engineers, the diplomats. Statues stood in public squares showing soldiers and scientists standing side by side. Children painted pictures of unity and hope. Songs of peace replaced the songs of war. Time passed, and the memory of fear grew dim. Commander Othar visited the negotiation ship for the first time. He walked the halls of the transport ship under heavy guard. He saw the scientists working, the pilots training. He saw families speaking with alien delegates, sharing meals. He paused in a corridor and touched the wall. He remembered the pride of his people. He felt something unfamiliar. He felt respect. He entered the conference room. John and Ava stood ready. Othar bowed slightly. It was a gesture of peace and apology. John returned the bow. Ava offered water. Othar accepted. Liam began to speak of joint projects. He spoke of combining knowledge to explore new worlds. Othar listened. He saw hope in Earth's eyes and felt hope in his own heart. The treaty was signed under a blanket of stars. Human and alien hands met over a glowing table. Cameras recorded the moment. News feeds streamed it across the galaxy. Mia Brooks reported. Liv, today, two peoples found laughter and respect. Today, we learned that threats can lead to friendship. Today, we stand not in fear, but in wonder. As the two fleets parted ways, Zoe looked back at the Zorther ships. She remembered the fear, the laughter, and now the promise of tomorrow. She whispered to the stars. We laughed back and we found a friend. Then she turned toward home. Months passed since the treaty was signed. Earth's sky was calm. Satellites and drones now patrolled both human and Zorther zones. People on Earth grew curious about the new allies. Ava Davis walked through a joint base in the Nevada desert. She saw human engineers working alongside Zorther technicians. They spoke slowly, using simple words and hand signals. Laughter rose when a Zorther tried to pronounce Earth in English. Ava smiled and stepped into the lab. Inside. She found Ethan Cole examining a new device with Isara, the lead alien engineer. The device combined human solar cells with Zorther crystal lenses. Together they hoped it would power deep space probes. Ethan showed Isara a sketch. She nodded and tapped her tablet. They tested the device. A small light pulsed. It glowed bright. Both engineers cheered. Ava felt hope again. She turned to see John Miller in the doorway. He watched the teamwork. He said softly, "We are stronger when we work together." Ava nodded. "This is what we fought for." They walked through the hall. Posters lined the walls. Unity in the stars and together we laugh. The words reminded them of that first strike, that first laugh at fear. Meanwhile, Commander Ithar stood on the bridge of his ship, now refitted with human engines. He studied a hologram of the Zorther home system. The Dominion's capital world lay at the center. Ithar felt a pull in his chest. He had once thought humans weak. Now he saw their strength of spirit. He pressed a button and set coordinates. A convoy of transport ships prepared to leave. Zoe Mitchell loaded her gear in a shuttle. She was assigned to the convoy escort. Her uniform had a new badge, half Earth flag, half Dominion symbol. She felt proud and nervous. Civilian scientists would travel to the Zorther worlds to share research. She would protect them. Ava and John stood on the launch pad. They waved as Zoe climbed aboard. The engines roared. The shuttle rose into the sky. The crowd cheered. Mia! Brooks reported live. A new chapter begins. Humans and Zorther take the first step toward unity. Days later, the convoy neared the edge of Zorther space. Suddenly, alarms rang aboard Zoe's shuttle. A small cluster of rogue fighter ships flashed on sensors. They bore no Dominion insignia. They attacked with speed and fire. Zoe gripped her controls. She pushed the shuttle into evasive patterns. A beam struck the hull. Metal screamed. Scientists inside cried out. Zoe tried to hail them. "We are under attack." "Preparing defense," she said. On the Dominion flagship, Ithar saw the attack on his screens. He roared, "To me, we have traitors among us." "Protect the convoy," his captains obeyed. Fighters raced toward the shuttle, intercepting the rogues. In the sky, Zorther fighters clashed with the rogues. Human drones joined the battle. Drones swung around the fighters, firing pulses that disabled engines without destruction. Zoe guided the shuttle behind a small asteroid cluster. She steadied her breath. She saw her new allies in action. The rogues pressed on. One pilot dove toward the convoy transports. Zoe acted fast. She launched 2 defense drones from her shuttle. They shot out and formed a shield. The rogue ship fired again. The drones took the hit. They spun and fell away, damaged, but the convoy was safe. Arthur's fighters overwhelmed the rogues. They forced the attackers to flee. One rogue ship broke off and headed for a nearby moon. Zoe took a chance. She maneuvered after it. She chased the ship through rocky canyons. Her engines burned hot. The rogue ship tried to escape. Zoe closed in. She fired a pulse that hit the cockpit. The rogue pilot slid off course. The ship spun and crashed softly on the moon's surface. Zoe landed and rushed out with a small team. They found the pilot unconscious. He wore a faded uniform. He was an officer from a splinter group that opposed peace. They woke him gently. He stared at Zoe. Fear and regret filled his eyes. "I thought you weak," he whispered. "I never saw ... The pilot's voice broke. He understood the cost of his choice. Zoe called Ava on the comlink. Ava's voice answered. Zoe said, "We capture one." He surrendered. Ava replied, "Good work. Bring him to the conference ship. We will talk to him." Zoe nodded and set course back on the conference ship. John and Ava met the pilot. He sat in a small room, hands bound. He looked at them with shame. "I serve the Dominion," he said quietly. "I believed peace was a lie." John leaned forward. "Why attack scientists who want to share energy solutions?" The pilot lowered his head. "I fear change. I fear my world would lose its pride," Ava asked. "And now?" The pilot met Ava's eyes. "I see unity as strength. I see that laughter in the face of fear can heal more than war." John and Ava shared a look. "Then you can help," John said. "Help us reach those who still fear change," the pilot nodded. He understood. Soon the convoy reached the Zorther capital world, Ilthera. The planet's rings glowed with color. Human ships entered the sky. On the ground, crowds gathered to welcome the visitors. Zorther children held Earth flags. Human children waved Zorther banners. The air buzzed with music from both worlds' trumpets. And drums, strings, and chimes. Ava stepped off the shuttle. She felt the warm breeze of Ilthera. She looked around and saw faces full of hope. She turned to John. "We did this together," she said. John smiled. "Yes," we laughed back, "and we built a bridge." At the Central Plaza, Commander Athar gave a speech. He spoke in both languages, with translators at his side. "Today, we honor the bravery of those who dared to laugh at fear. We honor those who chose unity over division. We welcome our friends from Earth as equals." He paused. "Let our peoples walk together in peace. Let our laughter echo among the stars." The crowd cheered. Zoe stood among the guards. She watched as children from both species danced. She saw the rogue pilot, now free and proud, sharing a story with young Zorther. Ethan and Isara unveiled the new crystal lens solar panel. Mia Brooks captured every moment on camera. A new era had begun. Earth and the Zorthers stood side by side. And though threats might come again, they knew the power of unity and the power of laughter. Part 6. The laughter of two worlds. The morning on Ilthera began with soft golden light. Birds with colored wings sang in the crystal trees. Human and Zorther children ran together through the gardens of the Peace Park. They chased each other with giggles and loud calls. The sky above held a pale blue ribbon of atmosphere and the ringed silhouette of Ilthera's bright moon. The sight filled Zoe Mitchell's heart with calm. She watched from a raised platform as diplomats met below. John Miller stood beside Ava Davis at the edge of the park. He held a small bouquet of local Iltheran flowers. The petals glowed softly in his hand. He cleared his throat and looked around. Scientists, artists, and leaders from both worlds sat in a circle on colorful mats. The peace treaty signing took place here a month ago. Now they gathered to celebrate its success. Ava looked at John. They had come far from the tense meetings. On Earth, she smiled. "Do you remember our first days?" she asked. John nodded. "I remember fear. I remember the sound of that EMP strike in orbit. But I also remember the crowd singing. I remember laughter around the globe." He breathed in the sweet air of Ilthera. "We belonged together even then." Ava took his hand. "Today we show it to the galaxy." She squeezed his hand and let go. Isara, the Zorther engineer, took the stage. Her tall, slender form glowed in simple robes. She spoke in her musical language. Liam Carter translated. "We celebrate the unity of our people. We celebrate the bond that laughter built. We honor those who risked all for peace." Applause rose from the crowd. Next came a young Zorther poet, Vasha. She read a poem in a soft voice, translated by a human artist. Her words spoke of the stars and of tiny blue worlds that dared to laugh at the void. Each line painted a picture of hope. John felt tears in his eyes. Around him, people wiped their own tears. After the speeches, the art festival began. Humans and Zorther set up booths. They displayed paintings, sculptures, and music. Ava walked through the stalls. She saw a painting of Earth and Ilthera, side by side, with hands reaching across a starry gap. A human child painted a simple rocket and a Zorther child added bright wings. The picture glowed with color. Ava gently touched the canvas and smiled. Zoe joined her. Look, she said, pointing at a sculpture. It was built from fragments of an alien fighter and scraps of human drone parts. It formed a bridge arching toward the sky. Underneath, two figures, a human and a Zorther, stood hand in hand, a plaque read, "Forged by laughter, united by hope." Zoe ran her fingers along the smooth metal. "This is our story," she said. From a stage built on the park's central hill, music began. Human orchestras played strings while Zorther choirs hummed in alien harmony. The melody rose and fell like gentle waves. John and Ava looked at each other. Then they walked to the stage. Audience members waved, smiling. John tapped a small device on the lectern. Holograms flickered to life above the crowd. They showed scenes of the war, the Zorther ultimatum, the trembling world, the night of the first defense strike, children holding candles, the strike itself, the retreat of the Armada, and finally the handshake of peace. Each scene faded into the next with soft transitions. Ava spoke into the microphone. Her voice was calm and clear. "Today we remember fear. We remember how we came together when the sky trembled." She paused, looking into the crowd. "We remember that our laughter was the spark that lit the fire of unity, and we promise that spark will never die." The last hologram showed children from both worlds laughing together. A wave of applause crashed over the park. After the ceremony, John and Ava walked along a path by a crystal river. They spoke softly. "What comes next?" John asked. "Exploration," Ava answered. "We learn from each other. We share science and art. We travel to new worlds together." She looked at him, eyes bright. "We laugh at the void, and then we fill it with life." John kissed her hand. Meanwhile, Commander Othar stood with Liam Carter near the riverbank. The crystal water shimmered with light from above. Othar held a small human seedling in his hand. Liam smiled. "A symbol of growth," he said. Othar nodded. "In my world, small things are often overlooked. Yet this plant represents hope." He placed the seedling into the water. As it sank, tiny roots glowed. "Let our cooperation take root like this seedling and grow strong among the stars." Liam rested a hand on his shoulder. "It will." Over the next days, joint missions prepared for deep space exploration. Human and Zorther crews trained aboard a newly built ship, the Unity Voyager. Zoe served as pilot. Ethan and Isara worked on the engine interface. Soldiers from both worlds practiced drills side by side. Scientists held symposiums on zero-gravity farming and alien medicine. John and Ava toured the ship before departure. In the command center, they saw a holographic map of nearby star systems. Ava tapped a star. "First stop, the Orion Cluster," she said. "We believe a new resource may exist there." John placed his hand on her shoulder. "We go there together." He turned to look at the crew of mixed talents. "You are the bridge between worlds," he said. "You carry our laughter into the void." The crew cheered. Launch day arrived. The Unity Voyager stood on the pad, sleek and shining. Hundreds gathered to watch: diplomats, families, journalists, children waving flags. Mia Brooks stood with a camera. She smiled at Zoe. "Ready to laugh at the stars?" Zoe grinned. "More ready than ever." She signaled her Kodash pilot. Ava gave a short speech. "This ship carries our hopes. It carries our questions. It carries our joy." She stepped back. John joined Zoe in the cockpit. Engines ignited with a deep roar. The Voyager lifted slowly, then rose faster. The crowd watched until it became a bright point in the sky. Then it was gone. A hush fell. Zoe's voice came through speakers. "Unity Voyager is clear of Ilthran atmosphere. All systems normal. Heading to Orion Cluster in 3, 2, 1. A soft whoosh sounded, then silence. A cheer rose once more. Back in the park, Ava and John embraced. They looked at the ringed moon and saw tiny lights drifting toward the stars. "We laughed back," John whispered. "Now we laugh forward," Ava nodded, tears in her eyes. "And our laughter will echo beyond the rings and the stars. It will echo for generations." They held each other as the moonlight danced across the water on the bridge of a Zorther cruiser far away. A young officer watched the Unity Voyager recede. He held a hull of the Peace Park in his hand. He smiled. "They laughed back," he said, "and now they laugh at the stars." The galaxy felt a change. Fear had lost its power over two worlds. In its place, laughter, hope, and unity took root. And as the Unity Voyager flew toward unknown stars, humanity and the Zorther knew they would never face the dark alone.